Okay, good evening, everybody. Out in all the different corners of the world today. Some places it's still Friday, some places it's Saturday. Okay, but we're all here together now, listening to the teachings. So let's start with our practice, as we usually do before the teachings. So I'm counting on you to having that you have learned the practice and are practicing it fairly often, if not daily, so that I don't need to do a lot of guiding about it. Okay, so begin by visualizing the Buddha in the space in front of you. Remember, your entire visualization is made of light. He's surrounded by all the other holy beings, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and so on. And we're surrounded by all the sentient beings. And I think today it's especially good if we put all the people involved in the chaos in France in our visualization. The people killed, the people perpetrating the killing, that we put all of them in front of us and think that we're all facing the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha together, all seeking refuge, all seeking a path out of our confusion and misery. And so we imagine leading all the sentient beings in doing the following recitations and generating all the feelings and thoughts that the recitations express. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all my destructive actions accumulated since beginning this time, and rejoice in the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate all the virtues of myself and others to the great awakening. And then think that you offer the universe, everything beautiful in it, your body, everything you cherish. You offer it to the three jewels as an expression of your willingness to give up everything in order to learn the Dharma. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, foreland, sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you. May all beings enjoy this pure land. Venerable holy gurus, in the space of your truth body, from billowing clouds of your wisdom and love, let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma, in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Iruratna mandalakam niryatayami. Glorious and precious root Guru, sit upon the lotus and moon seat on my crown, guiding me with your great kindness. Bestow upon me the attainments of your body, speech, and mind, the eyes through whom the vast scriptures are seen, supreme doors for the fortunate who would cross over to spiritual freedom, illuminators whose wise means vibrate with compassion. To the entire line of spiritual mentors I make request. Then as we say the Buddha's mantra, lots of light flows from the Buddha into us. We imagine a Buddha on the crown of the heads of all the sentient beings around us, and light flows from those Buddhas into all the sentient beings. And the light does two things. First, it purifies all negativities, and second, it brings all the realizations of the gradual path. Tayata mani mani mahamani asoha. 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 So then focusing on the Buddha that's on the crown of our head, we make request. the fact that I and all other sentient beings have been born in samsara and are endlessly subjected to various kinds of intense dukkha is due to our failure to cultivate the 3 higher trainings correctly once we have developed the aspiration for liberation. Guru Buddha, please inspire me and all sentient beings so that we may cultivate the 3 higher trainings correctly once we have developed the aspiration for liberation. So in response to your requesting the Guru Buddha, 5 colored light rays and nectar stream from all the parts of his body into you through the crown of your head. Similarly, this is happening with all the sentient beings around you and the Buddhas on their heads. The light and nectar absorbs into your mind and body and into those of all sentient beings, purifying all negativities and obscurations accumulated since beginningless time. And especially purifying all illness, interferences, negativities, and obscurations that interfere with cultivating the 3 higher trainings correctly once you have developed the aspiration for liberation. Your body becomes translucent, the nature of light. And all your good qualities, lifespan, merit, understanding of the Dharma, and so forth, all expand and increase. Having developed the aspiration for liberation, think that a superior realization of correct cultivation of the 3 higher trainings has arisen in your mind stream and in the mind stream of all others. So imagine what it would feel like inside of yourself to have that very strong aspiration for liberation, and then to be correctly cultivating ethical conduct, concentration, and wisdom. What would that be like? Imagine feeling that. Okay. So we're on the section of the Lamrim that is for people of the middle capacity, or it's in common with people of the middle capacity. In other words, people who are meditating on the 4 truths seen by the Aryas and have a strong renunciation of the first 2 truths, true dukkha and true origins, and have a strong aspiration to cultivate the last two truths, true cessations and true paths. So when the Buddha was talking about the Four Noble Truths, he talked about the way we're supposed to relate to each one of them. Okay, so true dukkha, yeah, all the unsatisfactory conditions, they're to be known, they're to be understood. Yeah. True origin or true causes, they're to be abandoned. True cessations are to be actualized, and true paths are to be cultivated. Okay, so for each of the four truths, there's a specific way that we want to relate to it. So we have to make sure that we're relating to it in the proper way. So we pretty well covered the first two in a lot of depth. Well, not so much depth, but some depth before. And we're mostly cultivating, focusing on the last two now, especially true paths. And so true paths includes the 3 higher trainings, you know, because we're talking about the person practicing in common with a middle capacity being. The 3 higher trainings being ethical conduct, concentration, and wisdom. Did I talk about the different kinds of ethical conduct, the different kinds of pratimoksha precepts before? Yeah, I talked about the 8 types. Right, okay, so I did talk about the... Yeah. Okay, so I talked about the 8 kinds of pratimoksha precepts, and then the 4 factors that lead us to break them, and the 4 factors leading us to keep them. If you don't remember, it means you didn't review your notes. Right?
Right. But I don't think we did the 4 how to keep them. I don't think we did the 4 how we break them. Oh, no.
We did. We did those 4. Yeah. Yeah, because they go together. The way to keep them and the way to break them go together. Okay, so I thought today we'd talk a little bit about concentration. And of course, there's a lot to say about concentration. But, you know, so because we have to start with choosing a suitable object of meditation upon which to develop concentration. That's going to differ for different people, you know, so it's very often the general ones that are prescribed are meditation on the breath or meditation on the visualized image of the Buddha. Okay, those are the ones that are generally prescribed. Sometimes in conjunction with your teacher, you may feel that another one is more suitable for you and your kind of character. Then the first thing we have to do in developing concentration, yeah, is because our mind is all over the place, isn't it? You know, we sit down and you know, we think about everything under the sun except our object of meditation, right? And so there's different ways to talk about the hindrances, the interfering factors to concentration. So today I thought I'd talk about, since we're talking about the middle scope, middle capacity person, the hindrances as they're described in the Pali tradition. And I'm sure you'll resonate with these. Because they're in our mind all the time. Okay, so I'll list them and then we'll talk a little bit about them. So first one is sensual desire. Second one is malice. Third is dullness and drowsiness. Fourth is restlessness and regret. And fifth is deluded doubt. Okay? So the first one, sensual desire, this is first because I dare say that most of our distractions go in this direction, okay? We want pleasure, don't we? And it's called sensual desire because it's mostly through objects of our senses. You know, we want to see beautiful things, hear beautiful sounds, smell nice smells, taste nice tastes, to have nice tactile sensations, yeah? And even if we look at things like approval and reputation, they aren't, in one way we can say, well, they aren't sensory. You know, it isn't sensual desire. But it kind of is, because how do we get approval or a good reputation? It's through hearing pleasant sounds, isn't it? Or reading nice words. So it's again coming back to our senses and things that we can get from outside. Yeah? So for us sense addicts, that's why it said we live in the desire realm, because we're totally hooked on, you know, desirable objects of the senses. And we're so hooked on them that when the Buddha even suggests that we're addicted to them and that we might be happier not being so hooked on them, we get really upset. What's wrong with sense objects? The sensual world is beautiful, it's stimulating. Science is investigating us so we can understand it better. What's wrong, you know, with this? Is the way we usually respond, yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with sense objects. You know, they are what they are. But the fact of the matter is that when we pay a lot of attention to them, especially with attachment, we get more and more confused in our life. Yeah? Because our mind just gets totally overcome with this desire to have good sensory experiences and avoid unpleasant ones. Yeah? And we really are addicts. Because if you watch, like every day, every little minuscule decision we make is usually based on how can I get the most pleasure? Yeah. What particular foods am I going to put on my fork on this bite? It's all based on how I can get the most pleasure. Yeah. What am I going to do first thing this morning? Based on getting pleasure. Okay? So, since during our regular lives we're so hooked on this, when we sit down to meditate, what is it that comes so strongly in our mind? Daydreams about sense pleasure. Okay? So we're sitting there in perfect meditation position. Maybe you got through 2 breaths, and then lunch appears in your mind. I wonder what we're having for lunch. I wonder what we're having for snack time. Oh, we took precepts today. Well, there's always a beverage. I wonder what beverage I can have, you know? And then your mind goes off to think of your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband or wife, yeah? It goes off to think of all the places you've traveled to in the past and where you want to travel to in the future, yeah? You start thinking about your possessions, maybe your jewelry, your clothes, your sports equipment, your tools, yeah, your paints, your musical instruments, your bowling shoes, your dancing shoes. Whatever it is, you know, our mind starts going to our possessions. And it starts going to our money, because we need money to buy possessions. Yeah, what was my income this month? What am I going to spend it on? What stores can I go to buy this? Where can I get the best deal? How can I get something nicer than what my friend has without looking like I'm competing with them? Okay, so we get very distracted by sense objects, don't we? Yeah. We can even sit there in our meditation session, and this one's really deceptive. Oh, I want to get a new Buddha for my altar. Oh, this Buddha statue is so beautiful. It's made out of marble, it's carved so perfectly well. Really like that, na, 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 na. Okay, we go off daydreaming about our Buddha statue. And of course, the pedestal we're going to put it on, or the cloth we're going to make to set it on. Okay, how beautiful our altar's going to be. Yeah, what a gorgeous thangka we're going to get. Okay. And we think that's Dharma practice, because the objects of distraction are altar objects. What kind of mala can I get? I saw one of those malas that kind of sparkles in the dark. Yeah? Have you seen one? Yeah, one of our venerables had one. I saw it because when we were in India, I saw it sparkling in the dark. Wow, it was really pretty. It was green. She didn't give it to me. Yeah, wow. I wonder how I can talk her into giving it to me. But it doesn't look too good for me to have a sparkling green mala, does it? That would ruin my reputation. She better keep it. I'll take the dull wooden one. Yeah, that way I'll look like a renunciate. Okay, so, you know, all this happens in a meditation session, doesn't it? Yeah? Yeah? Or you sit there, you know, you're going to take your anagarika precepts. What color blue should my anagarika clothes be? Should they be really baggy? Should they be snug fitting? What kind of fabric? Oh, there's this really nice, smooth fabric I like so much. I bet you they'll get me the rough, ugly fabric. But if somebody offers me some nice, beautiful, smooth fabric, then I can't refuse it. How can I get some of it? Right? So, okay, so attachment to sense objects. Yeah? What's the antidote to this? Contemplating death and impermanence. Yeah? Thinking of the disadvantages of cyclic existence. Yeah? Because if you contemplate death and impermanence, you'll realize the object you're craving is changing and impermanent, that you too are changing and impermanent, and at the time you die, you know, all these sense objects are really not going to matter very much. You think about the disadvantages of cyclic existence and the kind of karma that you create by, you know, obsessing and being addicted to sense objects. Yeah, so that helps calm your mind down so that then you can focus on your chosen object of meditation. Okay, remember this, all of you who are starting retreat next week. Okay, then the second one is, the second hindrance is malice or ill will. Okay, so sensual desire is I want, and malice and ill will is I don't like. Okay, it's like rowing. I want, get away from me. I want, get away. You know, sensual attachment, malice and ill will. Okay, and so malice and ill will arise for everything we don't like, everything that is interfering with our happiness. Right? Yeah? When there's something we don't like, do we just sit there and go, oh, you know, here's this thing interfering with my happiness. It'll go away soon. Do we think like that? No. Here is this thing interfering with my happiness. This is illegal. It is a national catastrophe. It is unallowable. I've got to do something about it immediately. Otherwise, I will experience great suffering. So we sit in our meditation, looking so sweetly, and contemplate how to get even with the person who's getting in our way. How to hurt the feelings of somebody who hurt our feelings. Yeah. How to ruin the reputation of our competitor. How to deprive the person we're jealous of what they have, even if we don't get it. So we can spend a long time on malice and ill will in our meditation sessions. I remember the retreat I did after I left Italy, you know, and after I left Sam. And that whole retreat mostly was about malice and ill will. And, you know, working on them and trying to calm down a little bit, get myself calm during the session, stand up at the break time and again. Yeah, it's basically the whole retreat. I was so angry. Okay, so clearly malice and ill will are going to take us away from our meditation object. You know, not only are we going to create a lot of negative karma under their influence, but we're totally distracted from our meditation. Yeah, all we can do is sit there and think about who we don't like and how unfair it is and what we're going to do, you know, to be victorious in this situation. Yeah, and we can spend a whole meditation session on it, you know. I take refuge until I am my brother. Oh, he's driving me crazy. And my sister and my friends and my pet frog. Oh, I just, all the time, these people, oh, I'm so mad, I'm so angry, I'm so mad, I'm so angry. So mad, I'm so angry, I'm so mad, I'm so angry. So mad, I'm so angry. Oh, I dedicate the... Oh, I don't really have anything to dedicate this session, you know. Right? We've all done that, haven't we? Yeah, I've done that. Okay, so what do we meditate on to overcome our malice and ill will? Loving kindness and fortitude and yeah, disadvantages of anger and joy, yes, an antidote to jealousy, that could work. How about, starts with an F? Forgiveness. Forgiveness. Yeah, wouldn't forgiveness be a good thing to meditate on when we're having a lot of joy? A lot of... Oops. A lot of malice. Okay, forgiveness. Yeah. So again, remember these antidotes, and learn them. Learn how, fortitude. How do you meditate on fortitude? How do you meditate on loving kindness? How do you meditate on forgiveness? Okay, so that then, if you have one of these wonderful sessions, you can do something with your mind instead of it just getting stuck in anger and rage. Okay, third one. Dullness and drowsiness. Right? You've been there with your sadhana? Let's see, did I say the four immeasurables already or not? I can't remember, because I think I fell asleep after the... May all sentient beings have happiness. Okay, dullness and drowsiness. We've had enough sleep, sometimes more than enough sleep. Yeah? So often our dullness and drowsiness have nothing to do with the amount of sleep we've had. They have to do with our internal resistance to the teachings. Yeah? Or they have to do with negative karma from disrespecting the teachings or the teacher or the Dharma materials in the past. That kind of karma ripening. Yeah? And so, in break time, we're wide awake and energetic. We sit down to meditate and kerplunk. Yeah? And have you noticed often it's this very special kind of falling asleep. It's like you've been drugged. Yeah, isn't it? Isn't it? It's like totally impossible to keep your eyes open. You really feel like, you've been drugged. Yeah? But we haven't been drugged. Yeah? It's just the karma ripening and our dullness and drowsiness. So what are the antidotes to this? I mean, this is clearly a hindrance, isn't it? Can't meditate when you're dull and drowsy. Yeah, and if you start snoring, you're going to really disturb the people next to you. Yeah. So, what's the antidote?
Open your eyes.
Yeah, one is open your eyes. That's why they say, when you're developing concentration, keep your eyes a little bit opened. Make sure your head's not drooping. Make sure your back is straight and your head is level. Okay. Purification can help a lot too. Doing prostrations in the break time. If you're having trouble staying awake during sessions, come in to the hall a few minutes early and do prostrations. Do the 35 Buddhas. Yeah. Or splash your face with some cold water. Take off the 24 blankets you have covering you. If you're a little bit cold, you'll stay awake better. Okay? Yeah, don't make the hall too warm. Of course, I say that, then they make it freezing temperature. Then I say don't make it too cold, and they make it 80 degrees. So, extremists. Yeah, but try and, if you're a little bit little bit cooler than you're used to being, it will help you stay awake. Yeah. Get some exercise in the break time. Look long distances. Yeah, that's really important. Go out on the balcony, look at the sky and the stars. Look at the Idaho, the mountains in Idaho. Stretch your mind. Yeah, it's very, very good.
Lightening the object. Lightening the object.
Yeah, making the object very light. Yeah, very bright, I should say.
Meditation on precious human life.
Yeah, meditate on precious human life.
Things that make the mind more joyful.
Things that make the mind more joyful.
Engaged.
Refuge, Buddha nature, precious human life. Yeah, things that uplift the mind. If you're doing the breathing meditation, imagine exhaling all your drowsiness and dullness in the form of smoke that dissipates as soon as it leaves. And when you inhale, imagine inhaling light that completely fills your body-mind. Okay? Or imagine a very bright light at the tip of your nose. Or imagine the Buddha on your head and light coming from the Buddha into you. Okay? Those are all very, very good for helping with drowsiness and dullness. Then the fourth one is restlessness and regret. Okay? And they come together as a pair because there's some kind of similarity with them. Restlessness is, well, we all know what restlessness is. You know, it's like you can't sit still and your mind can't stay still and you should be doing something other than what you're doing and you've got to, you know, kind of, you got, what do they call it, the heebie-jeebies? Heebie-jeebies. If you're Jewish, it's called spilkies. Yeah, so you know, you're restless, yeah? Or even your body isn't restless, your mind is restless. What am I going to concentrate on? What am I going to meditate on? I don't want to feel like doing that, I don't feel like doing that. Okay? And then regret is, here it's a negative kind of regret. Well, let's describe it a little differently. It is a negative kind of regret, but it's a feeling that you should have done something you didn't do, or you shouldn't have done something you did do. Okay? So it's this uneasiness, this, restlessness, uneasiness, regret. Oh, what did I do? I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, they told me to wash the dishes this way so the health department didn't bust us, and I didn't do it right, you know? I'll have to go back and wash those forks again in the break time, you know? And hope that they didn't notice that I didn't wash the forks correctly. But I really, I regret that. Yeah. You know, and you get hooked into this thing, or just all sorts of regrets. You think back about your life, and instead of regretting in a wholesome way and purifying and making amends, the mind just is like, oh, look what I did. This is like really awful. I shouldn't have done that, and I should have done this, and you know, I could have come to the Abbey a month earlier, but I didn't feel like it, but I should have felt like it. I regret that I didn't come. Yeah, but actually I don't regret it, but I do kind of. And then I'm going to leave, and then after I leave the Abbey, oh, that'll be good. Then I can go to Starbucks. But then when I get home, I'm sure I'll regret having left the Abbey, and I'll want to be back here. So I regret thinking about leaving the Abbey and regretting it after I left. Yeah. Right? But, you know, no regret for going to Starbucks. Okay, so, you know, all this kind of regret, you know, what it's like. It's not a good kind of regret where, you know, you really are like doing a life inventory and you see your mistakes and you have honest regret and you want to, you know, fix, make amends and purify and everything. It's not like that. It's this kind of guilt, remorse, I should have, I shouldn't have kind of regret, okay? And restlessness. What's the antidote to that?
Meditation for the restlessness. For the restlessness, breathing meditation, stabilize your mind.
Yeah, breathing meditation. Yeah, just because your mind's filled with garbage, isn't it?
Meditation on the body. I mean, breathing meditation for me does not work.
Okay. So you're saying breathing meditation doesn't work for you. That's valid enough. But meditation on the nature of our body works. Yeah. Yeah, it can work very well because when you really sit there and you visually dissect this body, it's very sobering. It's very sobering. It kind of stops that restlessness. Yeah, and also helps us focus on what's important. Like, I'm stuck with this body, and look what it is, and, you know, I'm going to get another one just like it if I'm not careful. Okay, and then the last of the 5 hindrances, yeah?
I think with the regret part, it seems like you have to work out a couple things like around maybe responsibility. Who's responsible?
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah. So if you're having this kind of confused regret, it can be very helpful to sit and think, well, who's responsible for what in this? Yeah, because often we tend to take responsibility for things that aren't our responsibility, and we don't take responsibility for things that are. So it can be very helpful, you know, especially when we start this kind of thing like, well, I said this and it made this person unhappy and I'm to blame for their unhappiness. You know, I regret it, but I'm actually angry at them because why should I have to monitor myself simply because they don't like what I'm doing? But I do regret that they're unhappy, but I regret that I'm unhappy. You know, all this kind of stuff. To really sit down and think about it. Okay, what am I actually responsible for? If somebody else is unhappy, to what degree am I responsible for it?
I think also looking at our lack of integrity or integrity. I mean, like kind of analyzing it in that way, these situations.
Oh, okay. So you're saying, look at it, at the situation, and was I lacking in integrity and consideration for others in that situation? In which case, yes, it is good for me to have regret.
But you can switch it over to the wholesome regret, maybe.
Yeah, right. You make it into the wholesome regret. Or, you know, maybe I did have integrity and consideration for others, in which case I don't need to be so confused. Yeah.
It seems like with regret and restlessness both, there's like a dissatisfaction, discontent.
Yeah, there's an uneasiness in the mind.
And it seems like sometimes when I'm trying to meditate, my mind's wandering off. I try to just try to become content to just follow my breath. And
Yeah.
contentment.
Yeah, so it could be a thing of developing contentment. Often it's the attachment to sensual pleasure that is behind the feelings of discontent and dissatisfaction. Yeah, but restlessness can certainly join in there. Yeah.
I think that that regret often, if I really probe, is actually, I'm looking, if I'm confused about it, then it's really my attachment to approval and praise.
Okay, so you're saying that if you're confused about the regret, one thing that's usually behind it is you're attached to approval. So you're not sure, well, am I responsible about that or aren't I? Are these people going to blame me or aren't they going to blame me? You know, because I don't know whether what I did is good or bad. I'm waiting to see what other people think about it, and then I'll figure it out from there. Yeah. And then we get very confused, don't we? Yeah. Do they approve? Do they don't approve? Yeah, they approve, but actually it wasn't so good what I did. Yeah. They shouldn't approve, but I want them to approve. And if they approve, then maybe actually it wasn't so bad what I did. But I still don't feel completely at peace with it. You know? And on and on and on. So this regret and restlessness. Sometimes can you feel in your mind this certain kind of uneasiness and you're not sure about what? Yeah, so that comes in this kind of category. Yeah, you're uneasy, you feel like something's not right, but you don't exactly know what it is. And so in those situations, I often stop and say, okay, when did this feeling begin? And what was I doing, in the hour before that feeling arose? You know, was there something that set me off that I was unaware of at the time? And then the fifth hindrance is deluded doubt. Okay, so this is doubt. We covered this one before when we talked about the 6 root afflictions. Yeah, so this is doubt. Here, is it possible to develop concentration or is it impossible? Does this method work or doesn't it work? Do I have the right meditation object? Maybe I should switch my meditation object. Actually, I think I have more than 6 hindrances, but they say that 5 hindrances. I think I have 6, but they say 5, but maybe I can include them one and the other. I don't know. But is this whole thing work? Do these antidotes really work? How many times do I have to do these antidotes before they work? I don't know. I tried them once and, nothing really happened. So I don't know. So should I continue or not? Can I develop samadhi this retreat? Should I continue doing, a shamatha meditation? Maybe I should switch and do Lamrim instead. No, maybe I should actually go out and actually offer service in society. That might be the best thing. Well, yeah, I could do that, but they always say study is very good, so maybe I should go study. So let's see, I'm in retreat. Maybe I should study, maybe I should go do some social service. But when I'm out doing social service, then I think meditation's the best thing to do. So now I have the opportunity to meditate. I should really meditate. But I don't know. I just don't know if this method works. Yeah, they say that thousands of yogis have attained shamatha by using it, but they already had shamatha before. They weren't like me. Right? Okay. So what do we do with doubt? What's the antidote to doubt?
Study.
Are you sure? Huh?
It's one.
It's one, yeah. So study helps. Okay. But is study really the antidote? Maybe there's another antidote that's going to work better than studying. What else do you think could be the antidote?
Well, you have to work with your emotional doubt.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by emotional doubt?
Sometimes I think we're doubting the methods, but maybe sometimes there's a lot of emotion around that, and you have to work with the emotions that come up around it.
Oh.
And maybe it's self-doubt that's more emotional.
Yeah. Sometimes it's self-doubt. Yeah. Oh, everybody else can do this method, but, you know, I'm just not up for it. I'm sure it's not going to work for me. Because nothing ever works for me. Yeah, everything I tried. I went to Maharishi Yogi, you know, I did that, didn't develop samadhi. I meditated on crystals, didn't develop samadhi. Yeah, I did Reiki, that didn't work either. Yeah. I did Christian centering meditation, no samadhi. I went to Theravada monastery, no samadhi. Went to Zen, no samadhi. Went to Tibetan, no samadhi. You know, where am I going to get samadhi? Why haven't they developed a pill for it? Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll go become a scientist and develop the samadhi pill. My doubts are over. Okay, yeah, so we can get a lot of emotional doubt, you know, involved with self-esteem and capacity and inclusion or exclusion. Okay, so there's lots of ways that doubt work. But they're all like sewing with a two-pointed needle. Yeah, you can't get anywhere sewing with a two-pointed needle. Okay, so study is very good as an antidote. When it's just this restless kind of doubt, watching the breath is also very good. I find too, going back to what in the Dharma really touched my heart and that I know without a doubt is true. You know, going back to that, because we each have something like that in our mind that, you know, we heard a certain teaching and like, there was no way our afflicted mind could get around that one. Yeah? And so if you go back to that, it can really help the mind to settle. You know, this is what I know is true. Yeah? And then you build from there, from what you know is true.
What about guru devotion, guru yoga?
Mm-hmm.
Because the faith in the guru as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you believe that the guru will give you the blessings as well. So your doubt will decrease.
Yeah. So if you have a very strong relationship with your spiritual mentor and a lot of faith in your spiritual mentor, doing guru yoga can be helpful, you know. It's like this practice we just did with imagining the Buddha on our head and the light coming from the Buddha into us, purifying. You know, that can also work to help us calm our doubts and get us centered and just think, I'm purifying all of that kind of conceptual rubbish. Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's pause here. Any questions so far?
Not so much a question, or maybe there's a question in it. It's about this deluded doubt. I was thinking of His Holiness's phrase, reasoned faith. Faith based on reason.
Oh yeah, reasoned
so
faith.
When I get stuck there, which happens a lot with the two-pointed needle, yeah, I can go to, okay, it's kind of trust, like who do I trust? And then my teachers come to mind, and then I say, well, what do they say that they did to be how they are. And I think that's faith based on reason. Like I'm reasoning it out, but there is some kind of faith aspect in that.
Okay,
Can you
so
talk about
it's kind of similar to what Ron was talking about. It's like you have a strong relationship with your teacher and you have a deep trust in what your teacher has taught you and what your teacher has practiced themselves. Yeah, and so when you think of your teacher and you think of their qualities, and then you think, well, they're just telling me, the teachings are basically, they're telling me how they became the way they are. So they've practiced these teachings and gotten the result. And I look at them and they're trustworthy people, so I can trust the method that they're teaching me.
Yeah, even if I don't get it myself right now.
Yeah, even if it's not totally apparent to me right now how the whole thing works. Yeah. I know that they are reputable people that would not mislead me. Yeah. And I can see their good qualities, and they must have cultivated something to get them, and they're telling me what they cultivated. So I can trust them, and I can trust what they're telling me to do. Yeah.
That gets me out of the ditch.
Yes. It's a very good way to get out of the ditch. Yeah? Yeah, because the doubt just throws up everything, you know, kind of like a whirlwind of confetti. And, you know, finding your way, something that you want to anchor yourself to, is, you know, whether it's what you know in the Dharma that you can't refute, whether it's trusting your teacher, you know, whether it's studying the particular topic, you know. But anchoring yourself to something is going to help you calm that mind. And I think also it's important to recognize doubt for what it is. Yeah. Otherwise, doubt comes up and we don't recognize it as doubt and we think it's legitimate questions. And then we think about them and we get more and more and more confused.
I'm just puzzling whether this is really true, but at least the way doubt works for me, it's usually discouragement, which I now recognize as a habit of mind. So it's easier to just go, stop.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Okay.
To recognize it for what it is as something that's really, you know, trying to harm.
Yep.
And that seems like just effective.
Yeah. Okay, so you're saying what works for you is when you see the doubt coming up, to recognize for what it is, recognize it for what it is. This is doubt, this is useless, stop. Drop it, quit. And just be very decisive in that way. Mm-hmm.
But haven't you already figured out it's a dead end in order to be able to do that?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you've looked at the doubt enough, and you've seen that it's not taking you anywhere. Yeah, so you have some confidence in that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a question online.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak about how the practice of ethical conduct supports the development of concentration and vice versa?
Okay, so how the practice of ethical conduct supports concentration and vice versa. Okay, well, one way is if you don't keep ethical conduct, then you have a lot of confusion going on in your mind about how, okay, I wasn't completely ethical, but I need to keep up the appearance of being ethical, so how am I going to do that? So that becomes a hindrance to concentration, doesn't it? Because you're thinking of how to keep on looking ethical, although you aren't, because you're attached to your reputation. Yeah. Or if you don't keep good ethical conduct, then it's, well, I did this, but I shouldn't have, and then justify, rationalize, deny. All those psychological mechanisms come up, as a way to try and deal with our feelings about our unethical conduct. Okay, so that also becomes a big distraction in trying to develop concentration. Okay, so good ethical conduct completely cuts out all that kind of doubt and bewilderment and all of that kind of stuff. Also, there's two mental factors that are important both with ethical conduct and with developing concentration. So they're mindfulness and introspective awareness. So mindfulness in terms of ethical conduct keeps us focused on our precepts, on our values, so we know what we want to do, how we want to behave. Yeah, because mindfulness is a mental factor that focuses on something worthwhile and has the power to keep our mind there without letting the mind get distracted to other things. So it works in our day-to-day life, yeah? And then as we build up that mindfulness in our ethical conduct, then when we sit down to meditate, we have that ability to keep our mind on something. Okay, so that works very well for keeping our mindfulness on the object of meditation. Also, the other mental factor, introspective awareness, during our daily life in the practice of ethical conduct, this is the one that checks up and says, what am I doing? Am I acting according to my precepts? I set my mindfulness to do this in this way. Am I doing that? Or am I off track? Okay, so introspective awareness functions that way in developing ethical conduct. As we develop it there, then when we start doing concentration, we have that ability to monitor the mind. And then in the practice of concentration, it's, am I on the object of concentration, or has one of the hindrances arisen? Okay, so ethical conduct is it's a very necessary prerequisite for developing concentration. First, to develop mindfulness and introspective awareness, and second of all, to get our ethical conduct intact so that we don't have so much confusion in our mind and regret and remorse and doubt and rationalization and attachment to reputation and self-hatred and all those things that come that distract us when we're trying to develop concentration, but arise because we haven't kept good ethical conduct. Okay? So ethical conduct is the basis for developing concentration. Of course, the more you learn to concentrate, the more you're going to care about your ethical conduct too. Yeah, so it's, it usually goes from ethical conduct to concentration, but it can also go from concentration to reinforcing your determination to have good ethical conduct. Yeah. And this is one step that many people try and skip, especially in the West. It's like, ethical conduct, that's Sunday school stuff. That's don't do this and don't do that, and all it does is make me feel guilty. Yeah? Anyway, I want to be free. Yeah? So, this is something that many people really have to work with. At the beginning is even developing respect for ethical conduct, and get over a lot of the preconceptions about, oh, this is goody two-shoes, this is Sunday school, this is, you can't do this and you can't do that. This is somebody on the outside bossing me around and telling me what I can do and can't do. And so, many times, depending upon, how you grew up, that you really have to do a lot of work just to get your mind to see the value of ethical conduct, in a correct way. Any other questions? Okay, then I wanted to go on also to talk a little bit about, since we're talking about true path, then, you know, we had ethical conduct, concentration, and wisdom. And so here to talk about the Noble Eightfold Path, okay? Because this is often, you know, described as, especially in the Pali system, as the, you know, what is the path, you know, what are true paths? It's the Noble Eightfold Path, okay? So I don't know if we'll get through all of it this session. We'll see how far we get. Okay, so there's 8 of them, clearly, and these 8 can be included within the 3 higher trainings, okay? So it starts out with right view and right intention, and those are included in the higher training of wisdom. Then it goes to right speech, right action, and right livelihood, and those 3 are included in the higher training in ethical conduct. Then right effort, which applies to all 3 higher trainings. And then right mindfulness and right concentration, which apply to the higher training and concentration. Okay? So to talk about those very briefly, usually at the beginning of the practice, we start out with right view. And here in particular, right view means understanding karma. Yeah, understanding that our actions have an ethical dimension, that there are past and future lives, that afflictions cause us suffering, that they can be eliminated, you know. So kind of the Buddhist worldview to some degree or another. And we have to start out with that so that our practice is actually one that becomes Buddhist, you know? Because if we don't have the Buddhist worldview, if we don't have refuge in the 3 jewels, yeah, then we can keep good ethical conduct, or we can meditate with mindfulness and concentration, but it won't necessarily lead us to Buddhist realizations. Yeah, like, I just remember reading the book of one person who, you know, they weren't sure what they believed. They did Zen meditation and realized they believed in God. Now, you know, if you're really doing Zen meditation as a Buddhist meditation, your conclusion is not that you believe in God. People are all looking at something. Yes, what is so interesting about that corner? Huh?
It's up there now.
It's up where? Oh, so we're going to spend our time looking at the ceiling? Are we? We just talked about the 5 hindrances. And we still can't control our mind, can we? Restless mind. Was it a moth? Was it a spider? Was it Superman? What are you looking at?
Stink bug.
A stink bug. Oh, now that's really profound. When you think about the stink bug, are you cultivating bodhicitta at least? Yeah, or are you cultivating fear of being born as a stink bug in your future life? I mean, if you're going to look at a stink bug, at least make it into your part of your practice. Yeah, I'm looking out at all of you, and you're all Okay, right intention is the next one. Okay. So wrong intention. Let's start with wrong intention. Yeah. Well, if we go back to views, wrong views, yeah, instead of correct view, wrong view, not believing in past, future lives, not believing in karma, not believing that it's possible to eliminate afflictions, and so on. Okay, then wrong intentions are like having a lot of desire, yeah, malice, and cruelty. Those are wrong intentions for doing things, aren't they? Yeah. And so right intention becomes benevolence, renunciation, and compassion. Okay? So benevolence is, you know, a kindly feeling, a feeling of goodwill towards others. Yeah. And renunciation is the wish to be free of cyclic existence, or the wish not to be so attached to sense objects. And then compassion. Okay, so the benevolence counteracts the malice, the renunciation counteracts the attachment and desire, and compassion counteracts cruelty. Okay, cruelty is ahimsa, or violence. You know, I mean, is himsa, violence, and compassion is, you know, non-cruelty is ahimsa, what Gandhiji taught. Okay, so we start out with, you know, the right view, the right intention. Yeah, so that has a really good foundation. We have the view, we know why we're doing it, we have a good intention. We're not studying the Dharma and practicing the path to make money. We're not doing it to please somebody. We're not doing it for fame and reputation. Yeah, we're not doing it out of boredom. Yeah, we're not doing it to compete with somebody else. Yeah, we're doing it with a spirit of renunciation, of benevolence, of compassion. And especially if you're following the Mahayana path with bodhicitta as well. Okay, so with that perspective, our view and our intention intact, then we start on the three branches that fall into ethical conduct. Okay, so right speech. So wrong speech are the four non-virtues of speech: lying, creating disharmony, harsh words, and idle talk. And so right speech is the opposite: speaking truthfully, speaking to bring about harmony, speaking with kindness, and then speaking at appropriate times and of appropriate topics. It's not so easy to have correct speech. It's not so easy. And so this is one of the reasons why in the retreat we really cut back on the amount of talking we do as a way to cut back on the non-virtues of speech, and as a way to look at our tendencies to talk, you know, because you keep finding, you know, that you are on the verge of saying something, and then you have to stop because you remember that we're keeping silence. And then you stop and say, well, what was I about to say? And why did I want to say that? And what good was it going to do? Okay, so that can be very, very helpful to us. But in keeping silence during the retreat, that doesn't mean that we become the author of a whole notebook full of notes, okay? I remember at Cloud Mountain when we had retreats there was a bulletin board where everybody put their notes. Every break time, everybody headed for the bulletin board. Is there a note for me? You know, and if there wasn't, or even if there was, they would write a note and pin it on the board, you know. I really liked the way you rang the bell after meditation. It was so helpful. Pin it on the board. Then they've got to respond. Somebody writes me a note, that means I exist. Yeah, I'm getting some attention. The more notes I write, the more responses I get, the more I'm sure I exist. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Okay, so we try not to do that during retreat. Then right action, so this is wrong action, is the three physical non-virtues, you know, taking life or harming others physically, stealing their property, and then unwise or unkind sexual conduct. And then the three that constitute right action are, you know, saving life and protecting others' property and using sexuality wisely or kindly. Okay? So we've been through all of that before. I'm not going to go into a lot of that now. And then right livelihood. So this is how we get the requisites for life, how we get food, clothing, shelter, and medicine. You know, how does our livelihood work? Okay, so for lay people, wrong livelihood would be lying in your work or cheating people in some way. It would include, you know, making munitions or polluting chemicals, insecticides, armaments, you know, anything working in the Keystone pipeline, you know, and not cleaning up your ecological mess. Yeah, taking bribes. Yeah, so all this kind of thing, you know, would be wrong livelihood. Right livelihood is working in an honest way, in a sincere way, charging fair price, you know, paying your employees a fair amount, and also, you know, working in either a profession that's neutral or one where you are, you know, benefiting others and you have the correct motivation for being of benefit to them. Yeah. So you want to be a doctor not because it pays a lot, but because you really want to help people be healthy. For monastics, right, livelihood is different. Yeah, it means you know, receiving offerings that are given to you without the 5 wrong livelihoods. Okay, so 5 wrong livelihoods. It's interesting because these are often things that we were taught in our families to do in order to get stuff. And then we learn in Buddhism they're considered wrong livelihoods. Okay, hinting. Yeah, weren't you taught to hint for what you wanted? Yeah, it's not polite to say, give me this. So you hint. Gee, I could really use that. That's so nice, that's so helpful. Hint, 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 hint. Okay, it's wrong livelihood. Flattery. Yeah. Oh, this person that gave me X, Y, and Z, they were so kind. You know, it was just wonderful, and they were so helpful, you know. You know, come on, you want some flattery, give me what I want. Okay. Giving a small gift to get a big gift. Some people call this bribery, but we don't really think of ourselves as bribing other people, although bribery certainly is a wrong livelihood. But we will give a small gift in order to get a big one in return. Okay? So we give a gift not because we sincerely want to give, but because, you know, well, if I give them that, then they'll like me and they'll give me something back. Or if I give them this, they'll feel obliged and they'll give me something nicer back. Okay? So, again, wrong livelihood. It's a lack of sincerity. Coercion. Yeah. Most of us, again, we don't like to use the word coercion because we don't think of ourselves as coercing people. So another way to express it is you put people in a situation where they can't say no. Okay? So all these other people donated $100. Yeah, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so donated $100. And what is your pledge? How much are you going to donate? Okay, so giving, you know, pressuring people. Yeah. And then the fifth one is hypocrisy. Making ourselves look good in order to impress somebody so that they'll give us some kind of offering. Yeah. So for monastics, these 5 are considered wrong livelihood. Yeah, because we're supposed to live, you know, just on donations, on offerings. But, you know, you can't like go around hinting for everything and flattering people and, you know, giving them little things so they'll give you big things and putting them in positions where they can't say no. And then decking yourself out like some big important Dharma practitioner so that they'll really want to give something to you because they can create a lot of money, or create a lot of merit from it, you know? Yeah?
There's a question that says, aren't these unethical for lay folks as well, even though it's not breaking a vow?
Yeah, of course they're unethical for lay folks as well, but you know, in terms of wrong livelihood for lay people, you know, the grosser kind of thing would be working in some kind of business that is harmful, or, you know, working, you know, cheating or lying with people. Yeah, but of course these would pertain to lay people, but it's monastics that specialize in them. Okay. Okay, so other questions before we end? Anything?
They're really hard habits to break.
They're very hard habits, aren't they?
And the longer that you're ordained, the more subtle they become.
And the longer you're ordained, the more subtle they become. Very true.
It's very tricky to be in it because there's so much kindness and support.
Yeah.
To be very careful about even saying I want or I need, even if you don't really even have that in the back of your mind, although you better look carefully to see if you really have that in the back of your mind, because people really respond.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very tricky.
Yeah, very tricky. To really monitor, as a monastic, to monitor what do you really need, and what is the mind saying, oh, gee, it would be nice to have. Yeah, because people are generous and they do want to help, and it's not right to take advantage of them. Yeah?
So another one, for family businesses who are in the seafood industry for a long time and need to kill in order to sustain the business, to raise a family, what can the family do to reduce the bad karma?
Okay, so there's a family that is in the seafood business for quite a long time, and what can they do to reduce the bad karma that they're creating? Best thing would be to sell the business, you know, or dismantle the business and do something else. The way the question's asked, it sounds like that isn't something that the person wants to do. So in that situation, I would say at least have regret about killing. But it also becomes hard to have regret about killing if your livelihood and the livelihood of your family depends on it. Isn't it?
And you're doing really well.
And you're doing really well. Right. You're making a lot of money, and you need to make a lot of money, and your making money depends on killing. So it's hard to have regret for the killing you're doing. Although, you know, regretting non-virtue does reduce the heaviness of the karma. Yeah. Doing purification afterwards. But of course, if you intend to continue on in the seafood business, then, you know, of the 4 opponent powers, the one of having sincere regret is, you know, it's hard to have regret. And the determination not to do it again, that one's not going to be very strong either, because that's how you earn your livelihood. So, sorry, I'm not a very big help on that one. Mm-hmm.
I worked with seafood quite a bit when I was young, and they were mostly dealing with animals that were already dead when we got them. Okay, so you worked in seafood for a while, and you were dealing with animals that were already dead. Most of the time, I know I did. Yeah, most of the time, yeah. But it's also a thing, you know, you didn't do the killing, but did you, because you wanted the dead animals, were they killed for you? No, I was processing them as a job. Oh, you were processing. Cleaning fish or working in I see, okay. Okay, so you weren't catching them, you weren't cooking them and serving them. You were just working in a factory where the dead fish were being processed already and put into cans. Yeah, or freezing them. Yeah. So that's not as bad as doing the killing yourself. Yeah, because you don't really have the intention to harm the fish. Yeah.
But it's still part of the supply and demand chain.
Yeah, but it is part of it's going along with the supply and demand thing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whenever it comes to things like that with animals, I always ask myself, would it be okay if this was people? Would I be okay with it?
Yeah. Okay. That's a very good way to do it. So whenever these discussions come up about animals, you always ask yourselves, would this be okay if it were people instead? Yeah. Yikes. Yeah. I think it would be quite different, wouldn't it? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then this person also, besides this activity of killing, does otherwise somehow good practice, being very generous, for example, or developing concentration and wisdom, working hard so to understand the Dharma from one perspective, and then dedicating the merit to these creatures and doing a lot of prayers with that kind of merit that might be also probably do something.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, that's what they always say. If you're going to commit a negativity, have some regret afterwards, do some purification afterwards, dedicate your virtue for the benefit of whoever it is you harmed. So that always goes to reduce or purify in some way. But you can also see that there's no regret and there's no determination not to do it again. Yeah, so that you can see that whatever purification there is, yeah, is limited. Yeah, but it is good to make prayers for those beings and, you know, to dedicate our merit for them. At the same time we're killing them. You know, that's hard. That's hard. But, you know, it's better than not doing it. It's definitely better than not doing it. Okay, so please in the next week think about all of this. Yeah, remember the 5 hindrances and try and counteract them. Yeah, and then remember we went through 5 of the Noble Eightfold Path. We'll continue with that next week. Okay?
May the
Spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it, have long life. May I pacify the all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. And may the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Losang's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniryatayami. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born of no decline increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig, may you stay until samsara ends. May the deeds of explaining and practicing the Dharma, Danda group supporting the teachings and their upholders, who spread the view of dependent arising and non-violent actions in the 10 directions, and especially at Sravasti Abbey in the West, flourish.